One of the strangest parts about being a creator is working alone, honestly. Like, so many people are watching what you are doing, but you're like alone most of the time, shouting into the void.
Sometimes it can be a little lonely.
It can be such an isolating thing to be making things in your room.
It can get lonely, you know?
That's the reality. As a content creator, you might have traded your boss for a laptop, but you might have accidentally traded in your social life too. And making friends as an adult, especially as a content creator, is hard. So I've been digging into the science of how to turn strangers into friends. And here's the framework for creator connection. And we start with the power of proximity. One of the most consistent findings in social psychology is that we tend to form friendships around the people that we see most often. That makes sense. That's why a lot of friendships started in school or at work, or maybe even at the gym. But the problem is that most creators work completely by themselves or in remote teams. So how do you create this kind of proximity? I think about it in the way of creating more surface area to connect with people. So taking any opportunity to invite somebody to a chat, to a call, maybe even for coffee if they're in your area. And if you don't have any connections yet and still feel awkward reaching out to strangers, you might just want to join a local event or meetup. It's the best way to make connections within your closest proximity. Maybe it's not a dedicated creator meetup because they might be rare where you are, but Creative Mornings is a monthly talk series around the world in a bunch of major cities that you can attend and where creative, interesting people hang out. There's also just, meetup.com. Offline clubs are popping up and dinner events are popping up. So just look out for these opportunities where interesting creative people hang out. Maybe it's an expat meetup or an entrepreneur meetup, but try to expose yourself to different people away from your keyboard.
You just have to make sure that you arrange social events with friends, or you make sure you go out.
All right, so proximity puts you in the room. That's the where. But social science actually hasn't quantified how long it takes to make a friend. If proximity is the spark, this next point is the fuel. Put in the time. Research by Dr. Jeffrey Hall suggests that friendship is a time investment. You can't really skip the awkward phase, but you can cheat it a little bit, and I'll get to that in a moment. But first, according to the research, it takes about 50 hours to move from I sort of know this person to calling them a casual friend, and about 90 hours to move to a standard friend, and over 200 hours to becoming a close friend. Hang on a second. How much is 200 hours in days about?
About 8.5 days.
Damn! So you gotta spend a whole week together to call somebody a close friend. But what I noticed is that you interact with each other in different settings. This time can go way down. For example, I've known Mia online for a little bit, but we met last year in person at the Press Publish event. And then maybe 2 hours the next day getting coffee. And then I had her on my podcast.
This is my first time using this mic. I wanted to make the audio quality good. Do you think I need this?
So all in all, call that 10, 12 hours in total. But we multiplied that by different settings, which makes us feel way more connected because of it. And so just the other day, she actually called me a friend on a podcast.
I can give a shout out to my friend Valentin does this show called Orbit for Creators.
But the thing is, you don't want to just sit in a room for 50 hours. That is freaking boring and won't make you any friends. So if you want to skip the awkward phase about talking about the algorithm, you need a common direction. Making friendships through shared struggles and goals. Because friendships are often a side-by-side rather than a face-to-face. This means bond building is most effective when you're both focused on an external goal or activity. That is why joining a sports team, a volunteer group, or a specialized class creates a common challenge or a common goal. If you're both running towards something together or away from something, that puts you in the same tribe and instantly creates connection. Because if all you have in common is being a creator, you might still not have that much to talk about.
I've seen massive creators and tiny creators geeking out about particle physics, but then when you have someone who has like a passive music channel and a comedy channel, and they're sitting next to each other and being like, we personally don't have much in common, and our channels have nothing in common, and our business model is entirely different. That's when I see that there's challenges.
So working together builds the foundation, but what keeps people coming back to your orbit is how you make them feel when work is done. Make them the hero and just be kind. The smallest thing that might have the biggest impact on friendship is to give somebody a compliment. Hey, nice shoes. I really like your outfit. Oh, you got a haircut. Even just showing that you've noticed puts the other person in the spotlight and makes them feel appreciated, making them remember you in a much more positive light. And I know this can be super awkward, especially for guys, but trust me, bro. Just try it once.
You're breathtaking.
But friendship doesn't have an autoplay feature. You can't just sit in the coffee shop and wait for the algorithm to recommend you a best friend. Or maybe that's an app somewhere, who knows.
I think that's why events like this are so cool, because we get to feel a little less lonely for a second.
So number 5 is you have to make the first step. For some reason, we all think that the other people are way cooler, way smarter, and way more successful. So why should they care about me? So taking the courage to invite them to a chat or just sending hey can feel really hard, because the fear of rejection is hardwired in us. Because throughout history, being excluded from a group meant certain death. And for some reason, that still sits in our brains. But in reality, we all underestimate how much people actually like us from seeing us online or just from the very first interaction. So going forward, assume that people like you. This will make everything much easier. If you go into interaction assuming you're welcome, will reduce the social anxiety and make you much more approachable. So maybe friends will come to you after all. And then somebody has to be the one to suggest grabbing a coffee or moving the interaction from a DM to a call. And that someone can be you. It's really easy.
So just contact him. We're all like lonely nerds. What's the worst that's going to happen? They're not going to answer. Okay. But maybe they will. Yeah. Be nice.
I really hope that these 5 points help you make more connections with people that you want to hang out with. But if this all still feels completely overwhelming, you can just join the Creator Trust Club, a group of independent creators like you, where we meet once a month to talk about the reality behind the content without any kind of pressure to perform. And I hope to see you there.